was a pall over New York City. I mean, we were facing death in the face at that time.
The whole landscape of the streets in Lower Manhattan were knee-deep in gray dust.
Just like horrific steel everywhere. All the buildings, glass windows are smashed and broken all around. You know, it looked like a war zone.
Paper. Hard to believe that the one thing that really survives in that kind of thing is paper, waist high.
It was at that point in time that we realized there was a disaster unfolding.
I was actually on a phone, a conversation, and only about 200 yards away from the point of impact.
We heard this incredible rumble, and it sounded as if a locomotive were coming right through this room that we're in right now. And I looked up the window, and it was the second plane was coming in like just about eye level. And it went right into the South Tower, and it was like your brain you couldn't comprehend it. It was so shocking.
My brother was a fireman, and I knew he was working that day. He was in a rescue squad, so I knew that they would be going down to the towers. I was like, you know, I gotta go and find my brother. That's like everybody was trying to find their loved one or their friend or their brother or husband or wife or whatever. And, you know, I was like, I gotta find my brother, Michael.
I got a call saying, can you just go down there now? The first thing that I saw was the big, huge shard. Sometimes you see a photo of it. It's a big, huge shard of metal, almost beautiful. It really did take everyone's breath away. The second people landed in front of that, everyone was quiet.
And I remember driving down. We had to get special passes through the police lines. The government troops were surrounding the area as well. And we came down and we just watched this thing. It was the noxious fumes were coming out of the site in a very major way, and there were people all over it.
The pit was hell. I mean, that literally was. For 6 of the 8 months, there was this, way down into the core of the debris, it burned. And the recovery workers could not stand on the pit for longer than 30 minutes or their boots would start to melt. And it was just, it was hell over there.
It was obvious that people were putting themselves into harm's way in an effort to see if there are any survivors. It was incredible to watch New Yorkers at their best. How people came from all over, total strangers. Particularly the construction workers who helped build this thing, built the Twin Towers to begin with. Many of them came back and tried to find survivors. And they put themselves in extreme jeopardy. And of course, many of them cost their lives.
I had to come back down here, and I was really afraid. I was afraid to be on a subway. I was afraid to come back down to Lower Manhattan.
found myself in a state of almost despondency. As I watched this, and I said, my God, this place is going to become a ghost town, right? With all these people moving out. And I said, this is a disaster. It's really a disaster for the city, certainly a disaster for Lower Manhattan. And how about all the people millions of people who function down here? I mean, how are they going to function tomorrow? What's going to happen to them?
I wanted to be able to be down here and to feel safe. And I found that by volunteering, that experience was so inspiring and so moving that it sort of was it countered the fear of being down here.
Giving became the antithesis to what had been taken away from us. And that sort of that phenomenon, that urge created for me the need to come here and be part of the volunteer effort to deal with the extraordinary problems and that people were experiencing only a few yards from here in the pit.
We had over 10,000 volunteers. At best guess, we think 14,000, but it's hard to put a number on it. And we had all different kinds of volunteers. And even the workers who came in, by the end, become volunteers. And it happened because 14,000 people made it happen. There's a magic in that, and I can't describe it if someone's never been a part of it.
And there had been an enormous outpouring of goodwill and love throughout the country. And the stories are really outstanding in terms of the care from not just the people here, but outside.
We actually did a pretty good job, I think, in terms of, for how it was very chaotic.
I just said, you know what, gotta help find my brother. We gotta get all this stuff cleaned up, and then we're gonna rebuild this thing. That was the first three things, that came to my mind.
People were telling us what to do. People telling us we would never succeed. Many of my own colleagues in the real estate business said, Larry, you're crazy. You'll never rent it. People don't want it. You're just spending time and effort, money, wasting it, and so forth. And it was extremely difficult to live with those thoughts. But I just thought about it intensely. I said to myself, we've got to rebuild this place, and we've got to do it quickly.
There's been a hole in our skyline since 9/11. These new buildings designed by these international architects replaces that skyline with soaring, inspirational, dramatic, and exciting buildings. The tallest of these skyscrapers is One World Trade Center. Its symbolic height, 1,776 feet, which is the year that America got its independence from Britain. At the heart of this project is the memorial to those who lost their lives on 9/11. An 8-acre park with the footprints of the Twin Towers preserved inside the park, and a visitor center that will lead visitors below ground to an underground museum. There will be an incredible transportation hub designed by Santiago Calatrava and a performing arts center designed by Frank Gehry. After 9/11, it was very important to design the safest office building in America.
We saw what happened on 9/11. We know what that's happened against. How do we avoid that? And so we went to enormous lengths to determine what happened on 9/11, what caused those buildings to come down, and how to avoid it in a new building. And by golly, we studied, we determined what happened, and we resolved here to build a building that this could never happen to.
This is the thickest, densest concrete that you can pour. It's the same type of concrete that's used in the Hoover Dam.
And in terms of life safety, these buildings are built like none others have ever been built before.
Right now, there's construction on every single square inch of the site.
Architects, engineers, urban planners, green consultants, landscape architects.
Huge effort. Enormous integration, enormous collaboration and cooperation.
was a lot of public debate after 9/11 as to what to do with the new World Trade Center.
We've had now 5 governors of the state of New York, 5 governors of the state of New Jersey, 5 executive directors of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. We've had 2 mayors. We had also the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation to deal with, and different leaders there. So it was an experience and a half.
Biggest project in America, if not the world right now. All good things, all great engineering, all the hard workers here. People working around the clock. Lots of good things happening here. Can't wait for it to be done.
The impact on this part of the city will be the same as Rockefeller Center had. Rockefeller Center was built in the 30s. It changed everything there. As the rebuilding of the Trade Center will change everything here.
I'm excited that Lower Manhattan is really coming alive. There's an amazing history, Lower Manhattan. It was the place where the founding fathers started the country. A lot more people have moved downtown, and it's a lot more vibrant. There's a lot of young families.
60,000 families have come into this area. The growth here in the last 10 years has been phenomenal. Contrary to everybody's prediction, everybody's going to run, they started coming in and saw it as a huge opportunity.
There's an excitement for Lower Manhattan, and even though the development has been slow, it's been intentional. I think it's well planned out.
One of the things that we realized as we started thinking about it was the necessity of taking into consideration people's attitudes toward the Trade Center.
The original World Trade Center was a superblock. The Twin Towers were built on a platform 35 feet above street level, and it never felt part of New York City. This new plan calls for the reintroduction of the grid, Greenwich Street running north-south, Fulton Street running east-west.
And that's going to have a real unifying effect on the community.
This is a city that runs on the grid, and this project is now, for the first time in 40 years, connected to the rest of Manhattan.
I've come from a place where you've seen a lot of tragedy and horror and destruction, and we've turned the corner on getting rid of all of that and started moving forward to make New York City whole again and make the United States proud of what we're going to build down here.
I came here wanting to share myself and to help those who needed the help most at that time. But what I found, to my own surprise, is that I took much more out of this place, and I learned more by taking much more from this place than I even brought in.
Being here in that time really illuminated for me the fact that service is my life as a profession.
The way I was changed as a result of 9/11 was really making those relationships the primary thing in my life, and taking time for those relationships and remembering every day to love, because that's what I thought of in that moment.
This whole experience, 10 years of being down here at Ground Zero and rebuilding the World Trade Center, I've learned a lot about the human spirit and the spirit to move on and move forward.
It made me realize of the importance of what America stands for as a country.
My dream about coming back here to this site is very simple. All the buildings are finished, the memorial's finished, there's a nice park with a tree. I'm bringing my girls here. We're gonna sit down, have a little picnic on a bench, just enjoy the surroundings.